Today on this webinar, we will be focusing on locomotive batteries and single-point watering systems that can prolong the life of locomotive batteries as well as improve the performance of locomotive batteries. Our agenda for this webinar today will go as follows. I'll do a brief introduction and overview. Then I'll tell you a little bit about Flow-Rite Controls, who we are and what we are. Then we'll do a deep dive into the Flow-Rite Controls locomotive single-point watering valve, tubing, and kits. Then I'm going to talk about the proper installation of a locomotive watering system. We'll discuss the water supplies that can be used for those single-point watering systems on locomotives. Then we'll talk about safety and some best practices. We'll discuss how and where to buy single-point watering systems for locomotive batteries and follow it up with a question and answer session. As Andrew stated, my name is Todd Cowan. I've been with Flow-Rite Controls for 15 years. I'm the business development manager who works directly with the locomotive and rail applications. With me today is Andrew Pressler, who is Flow-Rite's marketing specialist. We know that time is precious and we appreciate you taking time to join us today. Flow-Rite Controls was founded in 1981 and has been family owned ever since. Flow-Rite Controls is a vertically integrated company, which means that we do all of our design, manufacturing, assembling, testing, shipping, engineering work, sales, marketing, finances, all under one roof in Byron Center, Michigan. Through this vertical integration, Flow-Rite has been able over the years to provide solutions at a rapid pace to our customers. This vertical integration allows Flow-Rite to make changes that otherwise would take weeks and months, we can do in days. Through this vertical integration, we proudly make all of our product in the USA in Byron Center, Michigan, and Flow-Rite is an ISO 9001 certified company. Locomotive starts demand aggressive charging, which results in increased water use within locomotive batteries. Maintaining the proper level of water in each cell of a locomotive battery is essential to ensuring that the cranking amps are available to start the locomotive. Flow-Rite's locomotive single-point watering system was developed to tackle this mission-critical challenge. Flow-Rite's locomotive single-point watering systems ensure that the batteries on the locomotive have the full potential energy available. Flow-Rite's locomotive single-point watering system completes a watering task quickly and safely while consistently delivering the correct amount of water into each individual cell aboard a locomotive. Manual watering guns cannot provide the speed, safety, or return on investment that locomotive single-point watering systems can. You can see on the slide in front of you, I've actually put a picture of what a standard watering gun looks like on a locomotive and kind of the mess and the amount of work it takes to remove the caps, get that gun in there, and hope that it fills to the correct level without spilling any water or acid within the battery compartment of that locomotive. Flow-Rite's locomotive single-point battery watering system valve was specifically designed to function in the tough locomotive environment. A locomotive battery's energy lies in the fluid. The potential energy of a battery is dependent on the appropriate electrolyte level of the battery. So fluid level is the cornerstone of battery maintenance. The Flow-Rite locomotive battery single-point watering system is designed to provide the maximum potential energy of that battery by allowing the user to water the battery at any time regardless of state of charge. I want to spend a little time talking about the key features and benefits of Flow-Rite's locomotive single-point watering system. Again, Flow-Rite's locomotive single-point watering system is the only one that was specifically designed for locomotive use. With that being said, some of the key features that make it so applicable for the locomotive environment is the low-profile design that makes it easy to fit into battery compartments. Another key feature is that it makes the task of watering batteries much safer by eliminating acid exposure. It also makes it much safer for the locomotive itself and the battery tray because the single point watering system fills the battery to the correct level every time, avoiding spills and oversplashes of acid that will corrode and damage battery boxes. Another key feature is that the single point watering system has internal flame arresters that improve safety and protect against the propagation of flame from battery cell to battery cell. Some other key features that the system has is that it automatically ensures that each cell receives the correct amount of water every time, including cells in the back of a locomotive battery compartment. This can't be done with a manual watering gun. There's no way for a human to successfully ensure that the back cells receive the correct amount in such a manner as the single point watering system. Another safety factor is that the valve internally has a degassing chamber, which allows for the safe exchange of gases from inside the battery to the outside air. Another key feature is the patented three-port swivel. This makes for versatile installations, allowing a full 360 degrees of rotation for the connecting tubes in the swivel. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth when we talk about the installation. Some other key features and benefits are the fact that a single point watering system will help prolong the battery life as well as improve that battery's performance. What's unique about the Flow-Rite single point watering system valve and why it was specifically designed for locomotive is that the valve allows for electrolyte expansion inside the battery cell. What this means is that a battery can be watered with a Flow-Rite single point watering system with the battery at any state of charge. This is a huge advantage over traditional and manual watering where you have to assure that that battery is at its full charge. There's no longer that need when you use a Flow-Rite single point watering system. A final key feature I'd like to point out about the Flow-Rite Locomotive Single Point Watering System is our clampless tubing. This is a patented tubing that allows for tight bend radiuses when installing, and those tight bend radiuses will not kink. Also, this tubing protects against the breakdown caused by acid and gases that are present inside of the battery compartment on locomotives. Our competitors' PVC style tubing breaks down over time. Our patented tubing lasts for years. As I've said earlier, I've been with Flow-Rite for 15 years. I have seen this tubing in the field last for 8 or 9 years. It's very robust. We dye the tubing black to actually block any sunlight from penetrating into the tubing. That sunlight, if there was water present, could promote algae growth, which then could obviously migrate into the battery and would be bad. So that's another key feature within the tubing itself. Now that I've covered the features and benefits of the Flow-Rite Locomotive Single Point Watering System, I want to talk a little bit about the application of that single point watering system or kit to the battery itself. Locomotive batteries come in two common configurations, typically the 16 cell configuration and also the 4 cell configuration. We make kits to fit these batteries from various brands. We have a couple examples of these batteries up in front of you now, or on the screen now. In front of you now we have 2 examples of batteries with the Locomotive Single Point Watering System kits installed, and the batteries are actually aboard locomotives. On the left is a typical 16 cell configuration. You'll see that on top of the battery there is a single point watering system installed. Typically aboard a locomotive there'll be an adjacent 16 cell battery. Each 16 cell battery gets its own dedicated single point watering system. And on the right we have 2 4 cell configurations that are joined together. And you'll notice that with 2 4 cell we're able to join the single point watering systems together with one common fill tube. These are just a couple examples I wanted to share showing the systems installed on batteries and then obviously batteries installed into compartments on locomotive. Next, I want to cover the installation of a locomotive single point watering system on a locomotive battery. For this discussion, we're going to use our 16 cell or 32 volt kit. Pictured on the screen now is an entire kit and all of its contents. You will see we have the 16 valves, one for each cell of the battery. We have an installation book. We have red end caps. There's some tubing and swivel tees already installed into the tubing at predetermined lengths to fit the battery. If you remember earlier, I talked about the swivel tee and its ability to rotate 360 degrees. As we go through this installation, you're going to see a little bit of that. So the first step, once we get the battery, is to actually remove the factory vent caps from the battery. I have some pictured on the left. You just simply unscrew those, remove those from the battery. The picture on the right shows a battery with its vent caps removed. Obviously, the cells are open and exposed. Next, install the single point watering system valves. They're orange in color, black and orange. They drop in and then a quarter turn locks them in place. That quarter turn ensures that the valve is seated for a nice tight seal. Then we next grab those pre-installed swivel T tubing sections and snap those into the top of the valve. And the middle picture with the red background is kind of an up-close picture of the swivel T with the tubing, and it's all pressed and installed into the top of the valve. And then on the right, you can see how there's an arc in that tubing. That swivel T rotates freely even after install to allow the tubing a slight bend radius and arc. This actually protects the tubing from ripping or any damage if there is any kind of contact on the tubing. Here now we have taken all of the tubing sections and installed them. They were all pre-cut out of the kit, and you can see how it's simply a continuous string of tubing on top of the valves, and coiled up on the right is actually a section of hose with a quick coupler that is used for filling it. That quick coupler will mate with various water supplies that we're going to cover in a bit, but you can just get a feel for what it looks like on the install in this picture. This battery is ready to install into the battery compartment in the locomotive, and once again, here's a typical kind of couple examples of a 16 cell or 32 volt application in a locomotive. The picture on the right obviously has the total 64 volts with the two batteries installed in the locomotive. So that is the basic install of this kit. You can see it doesn't take long to execute the installation of the kit. And once it's installed on the battery, it's good for the life of the battery. These systems are actually warranted for 5 years, and I'll talk about that a bit later in the webinar. 10 minutes of installation, that battery will continue to use that single point watering system for its entire life. So the return on the investment is gained over time with the speed of the watering activity that the single point watering system allows. So just to kind of recap, I've covered the single point watering valve, the tubing, and the components that create the kit. I covered the kit installation on a battery. That battery is now in the locomotive. We've done all this activity. Now we need to water the battery. In order to successfully water the battery, we need to use an approved water supply. Flow-Rite makes 5 different water supplies that are approved for the use with locomotive kits. I'd like to start with probably our simplest and one of the more common water supply options that we have for locomotive, and that's the water supply converter. Currently, it should be on your screen in the top left. This is our part number BA-013. This converter is great if you have a facility with a competitor's water supply and want to convert to Flow-Rite. This would be the water supply to use. The next water supply I'd like to talk about is the regulated hose supply. That's pictured on the top right on your screen right now. This provides safe and steady water pressure to your single point watering system that's installed on the locomotive. It connects directly to any standard garden hose. We call them bibs up north where I live. A garden hose connection thread is common and allows for fast and easy filling. It's available in a 5-foot hose section or a 20-foot hose section. I always recommend using the 20-foot hose section just to give yourself some more room. The next option I'd like to talk about is our portable watering cart, and that's pictured on the bottom left. This is a neat water supply in that it allows for mobility. It carries 22 gallons of water. It has an ergonomic design. It's designed upright so people aren't bending over. It's AC and DC powered. It kind of runs like a laptop computer. It can be plugged in or not plugged in. It has a battery, obviously, as part of the mobility. This is great for shop environments, indoor use, with high frequency of use. The next two water supplies I'd like to cover are the portable water supply and the deionizer. I'm going to start with the portable water supply. This is kind of a unique water supply in that it can be used for large water-containing vessels or tanks. So it has a suction hose at one end that would go in a tank or a vat, and then the other end is 20 foot of hose that you would then connect to the locomotive battery. These can be mounted on like maintenance vehicles we've seen. You can get an AC powered version or a DC 12 volt powered version. So it can be used portable with a battery, or it can be permanently mounted somewhere and plugged into a wall. It's a very versatile water supply, and it fits numerous applications. Again, portable kind of being the key, but it can be wall mounted. And then the final water supply I want to cover is the deionizer. So a deionizer water supply is used if a shop or wherever the batteries are being maintained has poor water quality. We recommend the use of a deionizer. If the water quality is poor, and by poor water quality we mean high levels of dissolved solids. So you never want to fill a battery with water that you got from, say, a water softener. That's actually putting dissolved solids in the water. We don't want that. A deionizer removes all dissolved solids from the water and makes it great for the battery. A human being never wants to drink deionized water, but it's great for a battery. And deionizers condition the water, they remove the dissolved solids, and it does this through an ion exchange. The filter itself, or the deionizer cartridge, it's non-toxic. It can be disposed of in any landfill. The deionizer comes with a indicator light that actually tells you when the water quality is getting bad and it's time to change the cartridge. I'm sharing the deionizer itself, its part number BAMS340, but also we do sell the replacement cartridge, and it's BA-221. If you buy a deionizer, I always recommend buy 2 replacements. That way you've got plenty of leeway for your next buy, and that usually gives you plenty of battery fills in between your need to replace the cartridge. So those are the 5 different water supplies that Flow-Rite Controls has developed for the locomotive industry. As you can see, they're all together on your screen in front of you. From left to right, the blue water cart, the deionizer, the regulated hose supply, the converter, which is the gray piece at the bottom, and then the portable water supply, which is the red box on the right. All of these water supplies are available, and only approved water supplies should be used with Flow-Rite Locomotive single-point watering system. A common question in regards to single-point watering systems for the locomotive application is, can the system work in all environments from extreme hot to extreme cold? And the answer is yes. Flow-Rite has designed the single-point watering systems to work in extreme heat as well as extreme cold. So the system can be on the locomotive regardless of if it's in the Arizona desert or in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Obviously, the water supplies need to be protected from freezing, but commonly those are kept indoors anyway. I want to spend just a little bit of time and talk about safety and best practices when we're installing single-point watering systems, or just in general around lead acid batteries. Obviously, you never want to have cigarettes or any real source of ignition around batteries. The off-gassing of batteries creates very flammable gas. So we want to be careful with sources of ignition around batteries. I recommend never wearing jewelry or other metal objects. Obviously, anything that could cause a spark or an arc through conducting on the lead of the battery is a bad idea. We want to avoid contact with battery electrolyte. If this happens, always flush the area with plenty of water and seek medical attention as needed. A single-point watering system removes this hazard of battery electrolyte contact, where manual watering obviously puts the individual, their operator, in direct contact with acid. We never want to place anything on top of a battery that could cause a short. So, tools are common to cause shorts on batteries. We just want to be really aware of what we leave and put on tops of batteries and on the sides of batteries. Never add acid to a battery. Acid calculations and specific gravity is very scientific, and that is purely for the experts that create the batteries. We never ever want to put a charger to a frozen battery or an extremely cold battery. That does a lot of severe damage. We never want to charge a battery when it's above 122 degrees Fahrenheit also. So those two extremes, you want to avoid charging batteries that are extremely cold or extremely hot. We never want to store uncharged batteries. We want to put them on the shelf with a full charge, and preferably you want that battery to be stored with the watering system having just been filled after that charge. And obviously, you always want to clean up acid spills and be as safe as you can with any acid at any time. I mentioned early in the webinar Flow-Rite's warranty policy for our locomotive single-point watering systems. Those single-point watering systems and valves have a 5-year warranty. Every single valve has a laser-etched manufacturing date or born-on date. We put our shift information in there as well. That's the start of the warranty. So typically, battery warranties are no longer than 5 years, or battery life expectancy is about 5 years. So we engineer this product to live with the battery for its entire service. The water supplies that we sell, they come with a 1-year warranty, and we probably stand behind that as well. So next I want to talk about, how do you buy a locomotive single-point watering system? Well, it's pretty simple. You can reach out to me direct to start. Please feel free to reach out with me with any questions at all in regards to the single-point watering systems for locomotive batteries, or how to obtain them, or just questions in general. The systems can also be purchased from all locomotive battery manufacturers and agents. So your first step may be reaching out to me. I might line you up with the correct product and part number, and you already have someone to buy it from. If not, we can certainly point you in the right direction. when requesting pricing from your battery manufacturer agents, it's always a good idea to indicate the battery make, the style, and preferred water supply that you are interested in. That'll just help them in the process of giving you the correct single point watering solution for your application. Again, these systems are available through battery manufacturers and their agents. In closing, I just want to thank everyone for their time with us today. If you have any questions at all, feel free to contact the Flow-Rite team. We have an info email at flourite.com. Our phone number is 616-583-1700. We're always available and here to help. We're available on our social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Give us a follow, give us a like. We're always updating that content. I want to thank everyone for attending and appreciate that you took some time to sit down with us, and look forward to our next webinar. Thank you.